Welcome back to the channel. This will be the best wildcard team for Matchday 2 in World Cup Fantasy, and this will also help you with your transfer plans. Everyone gets 2 free transfers for Matchday 2 and 3. If you don't use a transfer this week, then you will have 3 for Matchday 3, but you can only roll during the group stages, which is identical to UCL Fantasy, which I also cover on this channel. Be sure to join my mini league. There's an auto join link in the description, and the code is also there to copy and paste into the FIFA app, or go to the play zone on the FIFA website. It's very easy to become a part of my mini league and also to play World Cup Fantasy. And check out the team selection video, which is coming out very soon, and also my deadline stream on Thursday, where I'll be answering all your questions as we lock in our final squads, and that's where the 12th man or wildcard could be activated. And my chip strategy is all laid out in my chip strategy video. The same goes for the how to play guide in terms of all the basics and fundamentals of how World Cup Fantasy works. And by watching all of my content, you'll be in the best position possible to win your mini leagues and rise up the rankings. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, not just World Cup Fantasy, but also FPL and the Champions League. And the aim is to get this to over 200 likes on YouTube as we close in on 40k subscribers on the platform. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fair likes to my videos, proud to part to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server and Spotify can also be found in the description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. It's worth noting that everyone has the exact same squad value in 100 million. There are no player price changes, so everyone has fixed prices in World Cup Fantasy, just like we saw in the Club World Cup, which I also covered last summer. And we get a 5 million increase to our budget for the round of 32 on Matchday 4, and that's where we can also use the qualification booster, and the mystery chip will be revealed. But I talked about what that could possibly be in the deadline stream, and it looks like the mystery chip will basically protect your clean sheet until your player has conceded a second goal. So all your goalkeepers, defenders, and midfielders will still have a clean sheet if their country has conceded 1 goal. And I think there's a very clear pattern in terms of the best way to use every single chip. And with the 12th man, if you still have that booster, I would highly recommend using it as early as possible, preferably on Matchday 2. But the wildcard is also a very all-round chip which you can use at different stages of the competition, even on Matchday 5 or 6. But I think Matchday 3 could be the sweet spot to tackle rotation. But this squad that you see on screen will also be very well optimized for Matchday 3 as things stand. But we can get plenty of surprises over the next couple of matches for Matchday 1, and of course for the next round of games as well. And that's where things can definitely change. But every single week I'll be talking about the best wildcard squad, and also delving into my own transfer plans and giving the best transfer tips for your World Cup Fantasy squads. I'll start off with the 2 goalkeepers, and whilst I would recommend a goalkeeper of less than 5% ownership to qualify for the scouting bonus, maybe even 2 of them, there are some very reliable mid-priced options that can deliver 1 or 2 clean sheets during the rest of the group stages. This may come as a surprise, but I think Alisson Becker will keep a clean sheet on Matchday 2 against Haiti, and I wouldn't rule one out against Scotland for the final game week of the group stages as well. And Brazil were very shaky against Morocco in the first half, but I would argue that Morocco is the toughest team that Brazil will have to face during these early stages of the competition. So I think Alisson Becker could give you 1 or 2 clean sheets, and his ownership is just over 5%, so he won't qualify for the scouting bonus, but any returns he gets will definitely help you in your quest to win your mini leagues and rise up the rankings. So I think he's a pretty decent goalkeeper pick. I didn't really like him so much for Matchday 1. I thought Brazil would concede, but I've got a different feeling for the Haiti fixture, and that's where Brazil could win quite comfortably, boost their goal difference, and keep a clean sheet in the process. But at a similar price tag, you've also got Courtois, who has even better fixtures when you combine Matchdays 2 and 3 together. And against Iran and New Zealand, I think Belgium could keep 1 clean sheet, but they also look quite shaky and vulnerable against Egypt in that 1-1 draw. So I will talk about a budget defender who only costs 3.7 million. That could be your way of covering that Belgian defense. But in terms of doubling up, I wouldn't be so sure. The same goes for Brazil, particularly for Matchday 3 against Scotland, where I think a clean sheet is possible. But it's really this fixture against Haiti that is the banker for me. And Dibu Martinez is available for Argentina. The only doubt there is Tagliafico against Algeria, but I'll talk about him very soon as well, because he could be a mega differential with less than 5% ownership, and he should start on Matchday 2 and 3. But of course, that isn't completely locked in because Tagliafico only just returned to group training. So when we look at the goalkeepers, you've also got Muslera at Uruguay, but he looked very shaky, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a change between the sticks on Matchday 2, and Uruguay could make several changes because when they made those substitutions, they looked like a much better side in the second half, producing 22 shots against Saudi Arabia, but I just didn't like Muslera's goalkeeping performance. Galindez is still pretty solid though, and that's why he makes it into this squad, and he is facing Curaçao. The only downside to this is there's the Germany fixture on Matchday 3, and even if the Germans rotate there, I still think they can beat Ecuador or at least score a goal, but Ecuador will have more to play for. They lost that crucial game against Ivory Coast, so it's not looking too good for them in terms of their prospects of qualifying to the next round directly in terms of the top two. They might need to settle through the back door as a third place team, but their defense is still very solid. But I've always said this with Ecuador, their problem is scoring goals, and that's why, despite Enner Valencia having a great World Cup record, he was definitely off target in the first game. He has 6 goals in 7 World Cup matches, but Galindez has an incredible clean sheet record, and also the amount of goals conceded in terms of his international career is outstanding as well. And in the World Cup qualifiers in South America, they set an all-time record, conceding just 5 goals. So they are very tough to break down, and that's why it could even be worth doubling or tripling up on their defense for Matchday 2 only. But when you also factor in Matchday 3, that's where you'd want to completely avoid Ecuador defensively if possible. But Galindez is someone you could arguably bench and then have Alisson against Scotland as your starting goalkeeper regardless. So that's the way I'd go about things in terms of the goalkeepers, and you could arguably go for 2 cheap goalkeepers there, which I talked about going into the tournament. So that's still viable, but there are some decent mid-price to premium options between the sticks, and I think Alisson could be one of the better ones for Matchday 2. We had one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history with Cape Verde holding Spain to a goalless draw in their first ever World Cup match. Now, 2 Spanish defenders in Llorente and Laporte both delivered 9-pointers because of the scouting bonus and the clean sheet, and they currently qualify for the scouting bonus once again ahead of their match against Saudi Arabia on Matchday 2. But keep your eyes peeled for Laporte's ownership in particular, because during the first deadline stream of the World Cup, he went up to 5% ownership, which meant he wouldn't qualify for the scouting bonus. But in the end, we only found out after the deadline had passed that he went down to 4.8%. Then some people bought him in, only to realize that transfer counted for Matchday 2, but it didn't actually take up one of their transfers, if you know what I mean. So instead of being down to 1 free transfer and buying Laporte, they still have 2 free transfers, and that's something I'll talk about in my team selection video as well. But I still think Laporte is the best way of covering that Spanish defense. You've got Cucurella, who is the template pick. He just joined Real Madrid as well, but he's not going to qualify for the scouting bonus. And there's also risk of rotation, I think, with the fullbacks. Both Pedro Porro and also Grimaldo could start in one of these matches coming up, but I still think Cucurella is first choice, of course, and the same goes for Laporte in central defence, but I just think he's a bit more nailed on than most Spanish defenders, and he qualifies for the scouting bonus, which is very important. The same goes for Ngoy, and there is no risk whatsoever in terms of him going above 5%. And after that 1-1 draw against Egypt, I think people will be put off the Belgian national team, particularly defensively, but they still have some value across all positions. Decatelare, if he starts in the midfield, looks quite encouraging at 5.6 million playing up front, but I'm not sure if that's going to stick for Matchday 2 with Lukaku making an impact off the bench and forcing that own goal as well. But I think defensively, you've got Courtois between the sticks, and then you go for a differential like Ngoy and keep things simple. But the best thing about him, he costs 3.7 million, making him a very decent budget enabler who can allow you to buy premium options in the midfield and forward line, arguably in the defence as well. And Laporte is technically one of them with a 5.5 million price tag as well. So I think Ngoy could keep a clean sheet or 2 and qualify for the scouting bonus on those occasions. And if that's the case, then you're looking at great value for the remaining matches of the group stages as well. So I'm going for this Ngoy pick here, but only 1 Belgian defender. I don't think it's worth doubling up on them. But this might also be a risky one because he'll arguably miss Matchday 1 against Algeria. That's what looks very likely at the moment. But Tagliafico could be in place for the game against Austria, and it's really the Jordan fixture where you want Tagliafico, but by that stage Argentina might have already qualified or sealed their spot in the next round and then rotate, so this could arguably age a bit poorly. But if you still have doubts about Tagliafico and you still want the Argentinian defensive coverage, there is Molina at 0.1 million more, and there's Otamendi who could still start. He's one of the oldest players at the World Cup, but he is still performing at a decent level, and we all saw what he did in Qatar as well. For the most part, he always has a few dodgy moments, but he is a World Cup winner, and Argentina in general have won 4 trophies in a row, and I think they have been overlooked quite significantly in the build-up to matchday 1. Even Lionel Messi up front has less than 20% ownership, which is quite incredible as well. But you also are blessed with so many options, particularly in the forward line. I understand that. And in the midfield, people like Almada are not really that known, so to speak. But I talked about him as a mega differential as well. If you are looking in the market for a mid-price or budget midfielder as well, who also qualifies for the scouting bonus. But defensively, I think Tagliafico is the best, assuming that he's fit and available for matchday 2, and he took part in group training over the last couple of days. So I think he will be ready for the Austria game, which won't be easy for Argentina. I think that could be the toughest test of the group stages, and Algeria will also be a very firm opposition. It's really the Jordan game where you're looking at Argentina to boost their goal difference and win quite handsomely. But we have seen multiple examples in this World Cup of the likes of Cape Verde putting on a very good defensive display and getting a result. So that's why you can't take anyone for granted in this tournament. Now, next up will be a very underrated pick from England. Ezri Konsa has less than 5% ownership, and I don't expect him to go above that threshold, and he plays Ghana and Panama on match days 2 and 3. Now, at the time of this recording, England haven't played yet on match day 1, so we'll see how they line up for the World Cup. But I think Konsa will be a starter here alongside Mark Gahey, and if that's the case, I would go for Konsa to cover that England defence. You've got Pickford in goal, who is also quite reasonable. He might be your preference over Alisson Becker, by the way, and I wouldn't mind a defensive double-up on England, who are keeping a lot of clean sheets and they're quite pragmatic. Thomas Tuchel knows how to win these sort of tournaments like the Champions League a couple of years ago. So I think Pickford over Alisson could be a slight upgrade actually for match days 2 and 3. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you see the likes of Konsa benched on match day 1, for example, that could be a way of reshaping things a little bit. Going for Pickford in goal and then a different defender over Ezri Konsa as well. But there is a spot for one more defender here for match days 2 and 3. And this will be a great pick for matchday 2, but not necessarily for the final game week of the group stages. Mojica is facing Uzbekistan on matchday 1, but it's Congo. That's the fixture you're going to have him for if you buy him in on the wildcard right now. So we'll see how Colombia do in a couple of days' time. But I think Mojica, with that low ownership, and he's actually at 4.4% at the time of this recording, and he costs 3.9 million. I think he offers terrific value here in the heart of that Colombian defense, playing as a left back. So I think this defensive line in general has a nice balance to it. No defensive double-ups whatsoever, unless you go for Pickford of Alisson, which I'm not completely against, to be fair. And overall, you're going to get plenty of clean sheets and scouting bonus. This is the main position or positions where you want to target scouting bonus, because all you would need is a clean sheet, which maybe is easier said than done, and you can get 9 points from that clean sheet for your goalkeeper or defender. But it's now time to move to the midfield, where we need more attacking returns, goals and assists, even key passes as well. And we have seen examples, by the way, of the key passes points that are actually rewarded for big chances created and not just normal chances created. We saw this sort of issue also surface in the Club World Cup last summer, and I highlighted this in the build-up to this tournament, so keep your eyes peeled for that. You also get points for tackles as well in this position, but ultimately the main goal here is to get those attacking returns in the midfield. There were several disappointments on matchday 1 like Rafinha, but I think he'll do very well against Haiti and Scotland. I'm more confident in Rafinha compared to the Brazilian defenders or Alisson Becker in goal, but it was Vinicius Jr. who popped up with that incredible goal against Morocco, and he could be a great 12-man option for matchday 2 as well. But Rafinha would also classify for that. If you don't have him in your normal squad, I wouldn't mind having him as a 12th man, but is he the best option? Well, I'm also looking at Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise. Ultimately, some of those options you'd also want to captain. Remember, you can't captain, transfer, or substitute a 12th man. All the rules are broken down in my how to play and chip strategy guides, but I think Rafinha is worth including here. He is fairly template. I wouldn't say he's owned by half of the game, for example, but his ownership is over 20%, but I think there's good reason for that. And a lot of people will be looking to sell him and chase last week's points, but I think that'd be a mistake because the Haiti fixture is there to be targeted, and I think Rafinha will do very well. The same goes for Bruno Fernandes against Uzbekistan, and we haven't seen Portugal yet, and I think that Congo game will be very insightful, but I still think Bruno Fernandes is the best Portuguese asset overall. I know Nuno Mendes defensively will be very solid, and there are some injury doubts about him, but he should be good to go. Cristiano Ronaldo up front, I mean, his goal scoring record is incredible, over 140 on the international stage, but I still think Bruno has that capability of goals and assists, and in World Cup matches, he has 5 attacking returns in 6 games, so he's got a very good record in this competition, and he's off the back of that record-breaking season for Man United, getting 21 assists in the Premier League alone. So I think Bruno Fernandes is one of the best options in the midfield, and that's why he is very template. His ownership is just shy of 50%, and there's good reason for that as well. But I think an even better option, arguably, for Matchday 2 is Michael Olise, and he would be another standout option for the 12th man, but that means he's not in your normal squad and you can't captain him. But you've also got Mbappe for that, if you want that double up in the French attack, which I think looks very promising for the Iraq fixture. And then it's going to be Norway. So France have a relatively balanced group overall, but their best fixture's coming up right now, and that's where Olise comes into play. And I could see them scoring plenty of goals, even if they drop points and maybe surprisingly finish second or third in their group, which I don't think will happen, but funny things have definitely happened in football, that's for sure. And Olise will be very keen to prevent that from happening. He scored a hat-trick against Northern Ireland only a couple of days ago in a friendly, so we know Olise can definitely step up on the big stage, and he's done it time after time again for Bayern Munich too. Now, this next pick plays up front, and he's classified as a midfielder, and I was looking at Decathlare, but I'm not sure if he's going to start against Iran up next, but he would still be under consideration for me. Beside Bari scored that really impressive goal against Brazil, and it's really the matchday free fixture against Haiti. That's the one that appeals, but next up is Scotland, and I think Saibari could still do fairly well here. He cost 6.8 million, and he classifies for the scouting bonus. He got 10 points on matchday 1, so I like this pick. I think Saibari might be the best Moroccan asset alongside Hakimi, and I talked about this in my predicted lineups video as well. Saibari is traditionally a attacking midfielder by trade, but he can also play up front, and irrespective of where he plays, he's always going to be a goal threat, and he's also got the assist potential as well. The last option qualifies for the scouting bonus too. This might not stick beyond the matchday 2 deadline, and ultimately it's all about the ownership before the deadline locks in, but let's see what happens with James Rodriguez. I actually kept him despite the fact that he went to 5% ownership, but in the end it went down to 4.8, 4.9, so I think this is always going to play a big part in people making late transfers or not, particularly with unlimited transfers, which we also get on matchday 4. But I think Colombia are worth doubling up on for matchday 2 specifically, and Mojica and James Rodriguez could be your transfers out, and this would be your essential booked-in transfers, basically. You can sell them for other players that I'll talk about later on in this video, but ultimately I think they're very good value for matchday 2, and they can easily give you some big returns because of the scouting bonus as well. And across the board, you've got a nice mixture here of consistent options and some of the best premium options in the game, like Olise and Bruno Fernandes. I think Rafinha's got a very high ceiling this week, but you've also got differentials like Saibari, James Rodriguez, and you're not forcing them. They have shown on the international stage that they can step up for their country, and they've got that really high ceiling as well. So I do like this sort of balance. I talked about Sabitzer for matchday 1 as well against Jordan, but I think James Rodriguez, because of the first 2 fixtures that Colombia had, he was always my sort of preference, and let's see how he does against Uzbekistan before facing Congo on matchday 2. But now there are 3 forward spots left, and 2 of them will be expensive and premium options, 2 of the best players in the game, and the other one could have a great tournament. He is currently one of the joint top scorers in this competition. Let's see if that continues in the long run. After a strong end to the season for Arsenal, scoring in the Champions League final, Kai Havertz has translated this form to the German national team, scoring and assisting against the USA, and also carrying that into the World Cup as well, with 2 goals against Curaçao in a 7-1 win for the German national team. That is certainly a famous scoreline for them. I think Kai Havertz can have a very strong tournament, and I said this in the build-up to matchday 1, but it is Curaçao, one of the lowest ranked teams in the tournament, so let's see how Havertz does against better nations like Ivory Coast and Ecuador, in football terms of course, and I think Havertz can score against both of them and also do very well in the knockout stages. I think Germany will go quite far this time round, but I still think there are deficiencies and weak points, especially in their defensive line, but I think going forwards they can create a lot of chances and be ruthless. If you give them that sort of belief that they can kill the game off and score goal after goal, they're going to do that. They are one of the most ruthless teams, of course. We have seen that over the years. And Kai Havertz can score from different ways. He's the main penalty taker for Germany, and he's got an incredible record, by the way. I think 23 out of 24 penalties scored, and even for Arsenal, very good record from the spot. And that has carried over to the German national team too. But you've also got From open play, he's got the assist potential, but mainly the goal threat. That's what you're going to get from Kai Havertz, and he should start up front in virtually every single game. I know Dennis Undav can make an impact off the bench, but it's all a question of whether Germany win the next game and are already basically guaranteed top spot. And if that's the case, then you could see Kai Havertz potentially being rested against Ecuador. But as things stand, if he starts both of those matches, I think Havertz could still be one of the best attackers that you can buy for the remainder of the group stages. I don't think it's too late, but ultimately, I'm not expecting another 13-pointer per se, like we saw against Curaçao. Next up is Mbappe, who has 12 goals and 3 assists in 14 World Cup matches. It's an incredible record. He's only a few away from breaking the all-time record in terms of World Cup goals. He's going to break it eventually. It's just a matter of time. And for France, he's also got 96 goal contributions in 98 appearances. So we know what Mbappe can do. It's not just the goals. He's got 40 assists for France, which is quite underrated. So, of course, back in the day, he played on the right-hand side. He's now predominantly playing as a striker, but France are loaded with attacking talent. Ousmane Dembele, Elise, Cherki, Barcola. There's not space for all of them, but I think Mbappe and Elise are the very best you can buy when it comes to the French national team. Maybe Ousmane Dembele will have something to say about that, but I just don't think you get any better than Mbappe for the French national team. Now, the last player has a great fixture for Matchday 2 and 3. If you don't have him in your normal team, you might want to consider using the 12th man on Harry Kane, who faces Ghana up next, followed by Panama, and he has scored against them in a World Cup before, so I think Kane's ceiling is incredibly high. It's just a question of whether England are going to be pragmatic and win games by the odd goal and sort of rely on set pieces, defence and physicality, kind of reminding me of a certain team in the Premier League as well, but I think Harry Kane is going to do very well in this tournament, and he's got a solid record in World Cups, 8 goals in 11 matches, and for England, he's got over 70 for his country as well. So he's a seasoned veteran at this point. For Bayern Munich, he scored 61 goals in 51 matches, so he's had a great season overall, and I think Harry Kane is arguably the best goal scorer in the world right now. Mbappe and Haaland aren't too far behind overall, and those three are the sort of ideal or dream trio, so to speak. And for Matchday 3, you might want to include Messi in that conversation as well when Argentina face Jordan, but you can never rule him out. Even against Austria, I think Messi can do very well, but I think this front three has a nice balance to it. Oyarzabal over Havertz might be better for Matchday 2 specifically, when Spain face Saudi Arabia compared to Germany facing Ivory Coast, but overall, you've got a very good balance in this 50-man squad, and you still have 0.3 million left in the bank, which you can use for another upgrade. And something I talked about, of course, was Alisson out for Jordan Pickford, and that would mean a triple up in the England team, and it gives you 0.5 million in the bank as a result. But in terms of who to start, it's all about who plays first, and the same goes for the captaincy. So don't think, oh, let me captain Mbappe or Kane, because that's not how it works. You want to go for the player who features first, but Gelindez would start. You put Pickford on the bench, but of course, if you went for Alisson Becker instead, he'd be the starting goalkeeper there, of course, because he plays on the 20th of June. Defensively, you would bench the likes of Mojica and possibly Konsa and go for a back three of Laporte, Ngoy and Tagliafico. And Rafinha could be your first captain here, with Bruno Fernandes, Elise and Saibari. James Rodriguez would also be on the bench, and you start the front three of Havertz, Mbappe and Harry Kane. So that's the way the starting 11 works with the substitutions. You want to be in control of them and not rely on automatic subs, because that only happens when a player in your starting 11 doesn't play whatsoever and they're taken out automatically. And if your captain doesn't play, then it goes to your vice captain. By the way, this is a very important tip for you, because you might experience this in the remaining days of Matchday 1. So with the vice captaincy, you don't want to put that on the player who plays at the very end of the matchday, because that could lock you out of a captaincy opportunity. For example, if you have Harry Kane for Matchday 1, and you put him vice captain and he's your only player left, you can't captain him because you can't switch the vice captaincy to somebody else because everybody else would have played. So what you want to do is, if you have any double ups whatsoever, and in this case, with this wildcard squad, you've got Konsa and Kane, maybe even Pickford as well, you can vice captain one of those players, and that would protect the Harry Kane captaincy opportunity if you need it. So for Matchday 1, a prime example would have been having Kimmich and Wirtz. You vice captain one of those players, you can captain the other one, and if it doesn't work out, you can then switch to captaincy once again. For the Spanish national team, if you had Oyarzabal and Laporte or Llorente, you vice captain one of those players, and that protects the final captaincy opportunity you have. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But that's a very important tip, I think, in order to protect every single captaincy opportunity and give you as many shots at nailing on that armband as possible, which is very important because so far I'm not happy with my returns when it comes to the captaincy, and I'm still looking for that big haul, if you will. And I've still got plenty of players left, by the way, and hopefully I can shoot up the rankings because it has been a relatively frustrating start from a fantasy perspective. And it all started with Qatar scoring in the dying embers of that game, and my first player and captain just, well, going from 9 points to 2, just like that. And Ricardo Rodriguez would have been quite handy to have. He was subbed off just moments before that Qatar equaliser. But we've seen plenty of upsets and also interesting football as well. Hopefully the off-the-pitch stuff also improves, but it has definitely been a bit of a farce, to say the least there. And hopefully you enjoy my content throughout the World Cup Fantasy Tournament, but keep your eyes peeled for that team selection video and the deadline stream on Thursday. In this section, I'll be highlighting some alternative picks. I'm not saying this should replace the best wildcard team, which I talked about, but a few players might pique your interest, especially Somerville, who I'll talk about in upcoming videos as well. Between the sticks, there's Vargas and Courtois as alternative options in goal. There's also Alisson and Pickford, like I talked about earlier, and Galindez. I wouldn't be against the likes of Dibu Martinez as well, particularly for Matchday 3, and it looks like he will play against Algeria and subsequently Austria as well, and Argentina definitely need that. In terms of a Tagliafico replacement, you've got Molina there at the right-back position, and Brown, who I talked about a lot in the build-up to Matchday 1. He ended up starting and getting a few goal contributions and 14 points, outscoring Kimmich quite comfortably in the end. There's also Renato Vega there, which might surprise you, but what I would basically say with this one is just wait and see if he actually starts or not, because it's between him and Gonzalo Inacio, but Renato Vega is a bit cheaper, and that will be the preference there at 4.3 million and very low ownership. It's not going to go above 5% for that very plum fixture against Uzbekistan. There's also Ordóñez for Ecuador, as long as he stays below 5% ownership, which I think will be the case, but doubling or tripling up on Ecuador defensively might be the play there for Matchday 2. And you've also got a Brazilian defender there in Douglas Santos against Haiti, but we could see rotation between him and Alexandro, and the same goes for the right-hand side as well. Luis Diaz as your Colombian attacker instead of James Rodriguez, but because of scouting bonus and also the World Cup record that he has, I think James is a better option. You've also got Vinicius Jr. there against Haiti, but that means you can't captain him. And Lamine Yamal could start here on Matchday 2, and Spain are in a group where everyone drew anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but it was a very surprising draw against Cape Verde, but I think they will put Saudi Arabia to the sword and score a couple of goals. You've also got Almada as a mega differential. He's going massively under the radar, and there's still no Messi up front. You could definitely go for him over Harry Kane or Kylian Mbappe, so that's something you might want to also consider there, but that doesn't mean I'm advocating a triple up in Argentina. For Matchday 3, that looks very promising, but against Austria, that could be maybe a Matchday 2 soon. I like Somerville at 5.3 million. He scored a great goal against Japan in that 2-2 draw, so that could be a very promising transfer that also opens up the funds for you in other areas, and that could also help you buy Elise, for example, or Harry Kane. So I think there's definitely a lot of positives to buying Somerville. Up front, Oyarzabal over Kai Havertz. I mean, for Matchday 2, that looks better on paper, but not necessarily for Matchday 3 as well, and it also depends on if Germany qualify or not to the next round by that stage. I think Mbappe is almost a must-have for Matchday 2, and I would want to captain him. So instead of the 12th man on Mbappe, I think captaining him would be even better. And that's where using the 12th man on Elise, for example, and captaining Mbappe might be the best way forward. Or you can do it the other way around, depending on your preference for that particular match. But also like Harry Kane a lot. He's probably my favourite forward for Matchdays 2 and 3 combined. That's why he makes it into this team. But like I mentioned before, you can never rule out someone like Lionel Messi, and that's why he should also be considered at the very least. And I think a lot of people will gravitate towards him from Matchday 3 onwards. And in the knockout stages, should Argentina get there, that could also be another dimension to the game. But this is not a 50-man squad I'd be building, just to be very clear. These are just alternative picks in each position that I think could do very well in World Cup Fantasy. And ultimately, there are even more where that came from. And I think it's all about playing it your own way. The same goes for your chip strategy, which I've got a very clear idea on. The 12th man on Matchday 2 looks really enticing for me, but for others, the wildcard could be even better, and that's the most powerful chip in the game. It's all dissected in that chip strategy guide and also the how to play video, but that wraps it up for me when it comes to the best wildcard squad and alternative picks for every single position for match days 2 and 3. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I appreciate all the support throughout the World Cup tournament, and there's still plenty more where that came from. Over the next month, I'll be covering World Cup Fantasy, and after that, it'll be FPL and UCL Fantasy until next season, and that's where the build-up will be very interesting indeed. Let's see what happens for the rest of Matchday 1, and my team selection will provide a lot of details in terms of my review on how I performed for the opening matchday, a few learnings and ways to improve for the remainder of the group stages, and also deploying a chip, because that will happen on Matchday 2, that's for sure. It's just a question of the sequence of things and how the others will fall into place for the remainder of the World Cup, but I've already got a clear idea on that, even with the mystery chip, which seems to have already been revealed online, and that's going to be a very interesting one in concept. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found insightful, then be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, not just for World Cup Fantasy, but also FPL and the Champions League. And let's get this video in particular to over 200 likes as we close in on 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the links in the description. My Patreon and the Championships, file access to my videos, proud to comments, amongst my other perks, my Discord server, the World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you on Thursday for the next deadline stream, and stay tuned for the upcoming team selection ahead of Match Day 2.